You had a lot of people that were expecting last Friday, even myself. I was like, hey, I think we're going to break 100K here. And it didn't happen. And it didn't happen over the weekend. And so what you had was a lot of kind of gambling money pile in at 99,000, thinking it was going to break. And now that it hasn't broken, they're getting nervous. My guess is it'll stabilize and then we'll start turning back up once those weak hands are kind of liquidated from the market. And I think at that point, this is interesting. At that point, I think not only do we pierce 100,000 on Bitcoin, but I think money from the altcoin moves will start to rotate into Bitcoin and push it even higher than 100K.
Bitcoin prices retraced sharply earlier this week after the leading cryptocurrency failed to breach the much-anticipated $100,000 level. The anticipation heightened further when popular Bitcoin bull and business executive Michael Saylor announced that his software and business intelligence firm, MicroStrategy, had purchased another 55,000 Bitcoin for $5.4 billion between November 18th and November 24th, when the cryptocurrency was trading at all-time highs. Following Saylor's announcement on Monday, Bitcoin's price dropped from over $98,000 per coin to about $90,900 on Tuesday. As this sharp correction began to ignite fears that the bull market was quickly coming to an end, prices picked up sharply again on Wednesday, hitting a peak of $97,200 per Bitcoin. According to Gareth Soloway, a popular pro trader and technical analyst, the correction was a result of weak hands getting liquidated. They had rushed in for the glory of hitting 100,000 and folded almost immediately. Their expectations did not come to fruition. With that out of the way, Soloway still firmly believes Bitcoin will soon breach $100,000 and go even higher in the coming days. In a recent interview with Altcoin Daily, Soloway shares his prediction for the leading cryptocurrency, including expectations of potential pullbacks, Bitcoin's price after Trump's inauguration, and his 2025 outlook for Ethereum and other altcoins. As we bring you clips from the interview, please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks for the support and enjoy the video.
Let me bring up my Bitcoin chart and take a look. And so what we are seeing is Bitcoin is pulling back here. And what I think is fascinating is that we came up as high as about 99,000 and change right up here, and we're now seeing a pullback. And just to explain what's going on here from a psychological standpoint is that you had a lot of people that were expecting last Friday, even myself. I was like, hey, I think we're going to break 100K here. And it didn't happen. And it didn't happen over the weekend. And so what you had was a lot of kind of gambling money pile in at 99,000, thinking it was going to break. And now that it hasn't broken, they're getting nervous. And now as it downticks, that kind of weak-handed investor is starting to sell, and it's causing Bitcoin to retrace. And I think that's really important because I still think it's going to break 100,000 here. I just think you have to kind of wipe out those weak hands first that kind of piled in just for that glory of watching the breakout above 100K. So right now we are pulling back. Sentiment had gotten very, very bullish. Everyone was gambling and thinking it was going to be a 100K easy break. So now you have to kind of wipe out those weak hands. Once it gets down, you'll have some support around 91, 92,000 here. My guess is it'll stabilize and then we'll start turning back up once those weak hands are kind of liquidated from the market. And I think at that point, this is interesting. At that point, I think not only do we pierce 100,000 on Bitcoin, but I think money from the altcoin moves will start to rotate into Bitcoin and push it even higher than 100K. Now, on a technical basis, this is something I discovered. It's the parallel channel that goes back to the high of 2017. So here's your bull market high of 2017. Here's your bull market high, the first high in 2021, and exactly to the high, the second high in 2021. Now, the way I tell if a line is important is I drop the parallel down. And so what we can see is this lower line is a parallel, right? So I'm taking it down, and notice how it perfectly interjects at this low and at this low. And what that tells me is that this line has credence, meaning it has power, because there's an even parallel with that kind of solidifies its importance. And so what I would expect is at some point we push back up, pierce 100,000, and we kind of go up to tag this upper level, which is right around 107 to 108. Once we get there, then I think we get the bigger correction, maybe back to 74 to 75. Now, where do I get 74 to 75 from? That's looking at this former all-time high right here that was in March And there's inevitability where markets tend to come back to what I call the scene of the crime, right? So you had this level right here. We kind of chopped around, we bull flagged here, we broke out, and there's this tendency to come back into that level here. And then that's where, for me, that's where I'm a buyer. Like if you give me 74, 75, I will buy hand over fist, because usually what you'll do is you'll break out, retrace, and then you'll continue up much, much more sharply. So at least to kind of game it out, that's what I would expect from a technical standpoint. I think over the next month or two, 108, 107 is my high, with a correction back to 74 to 75. By end of next year, I think there's so many things that are unknown that it's hard to predict. For instance, where is inflation? Because, we're talking about massive tariffs, which can be inflationary. We're talking about other factors. And if we start to see inflation getting out of control, and let's say Trump doesn't follow through on his Doge project with Elon Musk and cut spending, then there's, like if they can bring spending down and the deficit starts to shrink, then Bitcoin as a digital gold is less valuable to me. And I'm not saying to everyone, but it's for me, it's the offset of ridiculous spending in governments and fiat currencies. So the big question is, does he come through on his pledges? Or do we just see business as usual in Washington and the spending just continue and the deficit just continues to balloon? The more the deficit balloons, I think the more Bitcoin goes higher.
Gareth Soloway hit the nail right on the head with his prediction that the correction would take Bitcoin below $92,000, followed by a quick recovery back near all-time highs. The next phase for Bitcoin, according to the renowned technical analyst and veteran trader, is for Bitcoin to finally soar past $100,000, then move towards $107,000 to $108,000 per coin. This is where he expects a significant pullback back to the low to mid-70s. Though this seems somewhat bearish, considering all the bullish factors lining up in favor of higher prices next year, historical precedents and insightful analysis from other prominent investors and analysts suggest this is pretty realistic. Real Vision founder and CEO Raoul Pal believes this pullback, which he says could be as high as 30%, will occur around March, during tax season. Soloway is also certain that Donald Trump's inauguration and policies, much like his historic victory earlier this month, will have some effects on Bitcoin and the overall cryptocurrency market. Here are more clips from the interview.
So investors have bought this kind of idea that Trump's going to come in here and be, so Bitcoin pro that it's just going to be amazing. But the thing is this, is that markets price in expectations, right? And this goes for stocks, commodities, and crypto. And so investors are pricing in this lofty expectation that he's going to name a crypto czar, that he's going to do this, that he's going to create this reserve. And that's what they're pricing in now. So anything less would be a slight disappointment. And that's where you get that local top at 107 to 108 that actually could create that another reason, not just stock market related, but another reason, maybe a little disappointment. Maybe he doesn't move as fast as the crypto investors want.
What's your outlook for 2025 for Ethereum?
Yeah, so the key on Ethereum here on the charts is that we've been rallying up into this little level. So you can see this trend line right here, and price hit it here, was rejected. It's now hit it here again and getting rejected. If we get through this, you have resistance at 3,700, which is a trend line from your previous 52-week high here to your secondary high. If for some reason we can get through 3,700, I think then we make a run at the 4,100 level and could actually go and retest the all-time highs of 4,800. But the key here is getting through anywhere between 3,500 and 3,700. Got to get through there first. Then I think the road is much clearer and it can take off. You could make a case here where if we look at this, so we go back to our 2017 high, and if we just take that trend line and stretches out, that actually would be almost a 2x from here, right? You're going up to about 7,500 from about 30. In fact, it would be it would at least be a 100 move here, percent move to the upside, but that would be major resistance. The only thing I'll say, and listen, I'm more of a technical guy, so I can't say that I should be, I'm not an expert, but it does make me a little bit nervous that Ethereum has underperformed as much as it has. And I do wonder if Solana is eating some of its lunch, and that there's other altcoins that are starting to kind of nip at the heels of Ethereum, and that's causing it to underperform. Doesn't mean it can't go up, 100x from here, or I should say 1x or 2x, right? But I think, again, you just have to be very aware that if there's competition like with NVIDIA, if there's more players producing these AI chips, it's going to bring down the margins on something like NVIDIA, not to bring it to stocks, but that can happen with Ethereum versus Bitcoin is the pure play of digital gold, right? That's the way to play the 21 million max coins. That's the way to play digital type gold against fiat currencies.
In other news, OKG Research, a Hong Kong-based Web3 research and analytics firm, has issued a report forecasting that Bitcoin could witness inflows of up to $2.28 trillion by 2025. The firm predicts that by 2025, institutional investors will allocate a more substantial portion of their portfolios to Bitcoin, driven by its strong historical performance and limited supply. Ongoing macroeconomic trends, such as the devaluation of fiat currencies, rising inflation, and quantitative easing policies, are also expected to accelerate the pace of Bitcoin adoption as a hedge against economic instability. In addition to institutional involvement, the report highlights the actions of several nations turning to Bitcoin as a tool to shield their economies from inflation. El Salvador and the Central African Republic have adopted Bitcoin as legal tender, integrating it into their financial systems as a safeguard against currency devaluation. Bhutan, on the other hand, has embraced Bitcoin mining to capitalize on its decentralized nature and scarcity, using it as a strategy to mitigate inflation risks. The report concludes that Bitcoin's fixed supply, decentralization, and global liquidity make it resilient to short-term market fluctuations and macroeconomic volatility. Here's an official post from the firm published on X earlier this week. As of November 28, 2024, Bitcoin spot ETFs account for 5.55% of Bitcoin's total supply. A 5% threshold is a critical benchmark in the finance industry. Bitcoin adoption remains in its elite experiment stage, with just 0.01% of global public companies holding it. Since November 6th, 17 firms in the US and Japan have approved Bitcoin as a strategic asset. Conservative estimates project $2.28 trillion in Bitcoin inflows within a year. This could push Bitcoin prices to $200,000, aligning with forecasts from Bernstein, BCA Research, and Standard Chartered. Please share your thoughts on Gareth Soloway's predictions for Bitcoin and Ethereum and OKG's bullish $2.28 trillion prediction for Bitcoin. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing content. It really helps us out and ensures you never miss an update. Thanks for watching.